So obviously I use the Yosenjus and Cyber Dragon Infinity. The way I make it is by using Planetteller Knight Miles. Yes, whatever. Alright, so I use him. Obviously, I use his effect of detaching 3 materials to summon Cyber Dragon Nova. Then I use and then I summon Infinity on top of Nova by Nova's effect. And then I'm able to, once per turn, take an attack position monster in the field and equip it as XYZ material. If once per turn, I can detach a material to negate once per turn a spell, trap, or monster effect that was activated. And he gets 200 for every XYZ material he has. He starts off with a base of 2100 attack. And he's obviously really awesome. So I got Yosenju, 2. When he's normal summon, you get an extra normal summon. He has an effect that he can attack directly, but the battle damage is halved, and he returns to your hand during the end phase. Hermit Yosenju, 1. At this card's normal summon, you can summon another Yosenju monster except a copy of himself. If you control another Yosenju monster, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. That's really awesome. You know what I mean? Get rid of any problematic cards that might be in your way. So it's kind of like a Sky Blaster-ish kind of way, kind of card, right? So it's good for getting rid of any big monsters, or just in general getting rid of like Benny's emptiness, like bouncing it back to your opponent's hand, and then exceed summoning, obviously, right? Since these effects are normal summons, not special summons. Alright, and then during your end phase of this card was normal summon, it returns to your hand. Then you got Yosenju, 3. If this card is normal summon, you can immediately after this card effect resolves, you can summon another Yosenju monster, except a copy of himself. When another Yosenju monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can add a Yosenju card from your deck to your hand. Typically, I just add obviously the other monsters, because the only Yosenju cards in the deck are just the other monsters. Then we have Yosenju YUGIOH, and during the end phase of the turn he was summoned, he'll return back to your hand. He doesn't have the extra summoning ability that the other 3 have. During either player's turn, during the damage step, when a Yosenju monster you control battles an opponent's monster, you can discard this card from your hand to give that monster 1000 attack boost. His secondary effect is you can target one Yosenju monster on the field, it gains 1000 attack until the end of the turn. That means while he's on the field, face up on the field, he can target any Yosenju you have and give it 1000 boost. It could give it to any Yosenju on the field. It doesn't even have to be on your side. You could do it to your opponent. There's no point in that, but you could. But you could also do it on himself, which is great because he essentially becomes a level 4 2000, and with Tenki he's a level 4 2100, so that's pretty decent. I can run over certain things. And of course, you can gain both effects. So if you summon him, use his effect on himself, and make him 2000. Then when you attack during the damage step, you can discard the second copy in your hand, and he'll become a 3000. With Tenki, he'll be 31. So that's great for running certain monsters over, like a Pofile Killer, or Tower as he's called now. So that comes in handy. It's useful just to take down any monster that has 3000 attack. Another thing you can do with him is, since the 1, 2, and 3 have the ability to summon him, you could just summon, any of these. Let's say you summon 2, you can summon 2, use the effect which will let you summon Suki. Use Suki's YUGIOH effect, right, and target comma 2. Now comma 2 will be a 2800. With Tenki it'll be 29. And since he has the ability to attack directly, you can attack directly for half that battle damage. So let's check right quick. Half of 29, let's say, right? So if he's at full power, which would be technically 29 with Tenki. Let's see. 1000, half of 9. It's 450. So what's 1450 if I'm right? Divided by 2. Yeah, 1450. So 1450 damage directly to your opponent. I mean, and that's decent. And you can pretty much do that every turn, especially if you have, you know, red screen on the field. You can just summon comma 2, summon him, Sujik. Use Sujik's effect. Make a nice little 2900 because you have Tank in the field, and attack for 1450 every turn. You know what I mean? In a matter of a couple turns, you know, you should win the duel, right? You can use them obviously in the combo with any of the other ones. You can definitely do a good amount of damage if you summon comma 1 and summon Sujik and use his effect on him or even on himself, and then use this effect to bounce your opponent's monster out the way and then attack them directly. And that right there would be with Tenki, that'd be 1700 plus 21, that'd be 3800 points of damage. That's half your points, life points on one single turn, so can't argue with them results. You could also use them with comma 3. And since comma 3 gets his effect when another of your Yosenju monsters deal damage, you'll typically target Sujik himself, and while you have Tenki, he'll be 21, so it make it easier to run over stuff like Castiel, you know, Exiton, stuff like that. You know, any monster with 2000 less attack, be able to run it over, deal some battle damage, get the effect to plus, and you can plus any of the other ones. You can perform an OTK using Dynatherum, because right there you have a 1600. Then you summon, you know, you summon a comma 1, which lets you summon a comma 2, which lets you summon a comma 3. And if you just so happen to have Sujik as well, right there you have 5 monsters, more than enough to OTK your opponent. But if not, just basically any 2 of the comma, the Yosen commas, along with Sujik, and a Tenki will be capable of doing a good amount of damage. And when you do, Dynatherum helps you get that third monster you need, especially in a scenario where, you know, you drew a Dynatherum, for example, one of the Yosenjus in a Tenki, then you use a Tenki to have a different name, you know, Yosenju, and then special summon, normal summon, and there you got 3 monsters, so you can go into Tolemaios, whatever, Mouse. And then you can go into your Cyber Infinity play. Obviously, Tenki helps you with the consistency of getting what you need, and then of course you can use Tenki to help you set up, you know, the combo of comma 3 along with Sujik, so that way you can make sure you can make a nice little 2100 that can gain your extra effects. So essentially you're just like multiplying the effect of Tenki, because Tenki can help you get comma 3 and comma 3 combined with Sujik, you know, let you run over a monster with 2000 less attack, and, you know, get you another monster. So it's essentially like getting Tenki again. Then it's the fact that both of these are Beast Warriors. You're going to actually overlay them to make the Tiger King, use Tiger King's effect to get you a second tanky, so that way the following turn you can play tanky, you know what I mean? And you can thin out your deck a lot that way. Anyway, we have Galaxy Cyclone, obviously awesome. The way I see it, a lot of people are gonna play it. I'm a fan. I'm definitely playing it a lot. I could target a set spell or trap on the field and destroy it. Your opponent, of course, can chain to it, so whatever, right? But really wouldn't matter. But you can target a set spell or trap, pop it during your main phase, except the turn in which this card went to a graveyard. You can banish it from your graveyard to pop one face-up spell or trap card on the field. It's, you know, it's great. Be very useful, especially if you pop a face down like Deep Prison or something, and then later on your opponent tries to vanity, you know, activate the vanity emptiness or some floodgate or skill drain or something. Then you can banish this from your graveyard and get rid of it, and you know, play your deck and go off. You can also use it on yourself in case for some reason tanky's in your way. In case you have a dead called a haunted. Red screen might be on the field a little bit too long, a little bit longer than you wanted to, you know what I mean? So it's very useful in those types of scenarios. MST, obviously, it's good against vanity emptiness because it's a quick play. You can get rid of stuff like skill drain, macrocosmos, dimensional features, whatever you need to get rid of. You can also use it to disrupt your opponent's pendulum scale. Wing Blast. There's a lot of cards that can't be destroyed by battle card effect. So this comes in handy to get rid of stuff like that. Plus this can help you lock your opponent out for a couple turns, at least 2 turns, from drawing, you know, into their outs, their resources that they need to defeat you. So that comes in handy. This helps with the, you know, the Chidori lock. You use Chidori, you know, to disrupt your opponent's field and throw stuff back in their deck, and you can use Win Blast to make it even worse. Then you can use Spiritual Wind Art to make it even worse, right? Just throwing a whole bunch of stuff back in their deck, just making them have a bad day. Win Blast is just good in general. In case you attack with a Chidori or something, or even a Sky Blaster, or if you even summon any of your Yosenjus and attack into a Deep Prison, you could sacrifice it for this card effect and, you know, get rid of something. Just a good card in general, especially if you ran out of materials for Lightning Chidori, or let's say your opponent, you know, plays a card to destroy any of your wind monsters. You can tribute them. The good thing is you can set a Yosenju and then use the trap with them, because the monster doesn't have to be face up in order for you to tribute. Since you're the owner of the monster, you can confirm that it is a wind type, so you would be allowed to tribute a face down Yosenju for this effect. Red screen, good defensively, especially if you're in a scenario where you only have 2 Yosenjus, like I said, with a combo. Like let's say you got comma 2, which can attack directly along with Sujik. You know, you could just keep doing that 1450. You know, if you have tanky, that 1450 damage every turn. If, you know, if you're using red screen. Trap stun, this will help you get your combos off. You know, you want to avoid stuff like warning and mirror force, deep prison, stuff like that. This will help you, you know, blanket the field with trap negating effect and just go off, especially when you're trying to push for the OTK. If you have a good amount of Yosenjus in your hand, you could try to go for an OTK. So trap stun, drop a whole bunch of Yosenjus with a tanky on the field and go for game, right? Call a haunted. Useful, since the Yosenjus definitely will, a lot of them will go to a graveyard because of Exceed summoning or whatever other reason, or the fact that you discard them for a Wing Blast or use them for Spirit Art. You might want to bring them back and reuse them. So Call of Haunt is useful for that, of course. And you can bring back monsters like Cyber Dragon Infinity, bring them back with Call of Haunts, and then use this effect to steal one of your opponent's attack position monsters, and then, you know, just keep wrecking face. And of course, he's one of your best cards in the deck. He's your main boss monster in the deck. You're trying to make him as soon as possible because it just generates so much advantage. But you do have Pleiades as an option. You got Diamond, and of course 3 Chidori, so you can just go crazy with Chidori locking. You're going to go into this a lot more than anything else, but you definitely want to make him. So it's like it's between Chidori and Infinity, but typically Infinity will win you games, as it were, right? And then Soul Charge, because it makes it easier. If you have, you know, if you've just been slowly drawing one Yosenju at a time and throwing them away to the graveyard for like Wing Blast, or using it with like Wind Art or something to slow down your opponent, and then you end up with 3 in the grave, like, alright, now I can Soul Charge, sacrifice 3,000, and then do the combo of bringing him out, use his effect, bring out Nova, and then summon Infinity, and then, you know, make a comeback. Tiger King, decent effect. With Tenki, get strong, and he can get you a Tenki. That's another usefulness of him. Helps you thin out the deck. Number 101, it's really good, right? Not much to say. It's really good. You can detach 2 materials to take an attack position monster with special summon on your opponent's side field and attach as X, Y, Z material. If this card would be destroyed by battle or card fight, you could attach a material, so it's not this, so it wouldn't be destroyed. Sky Blaster, essentially, it's like Chidori. This has the effect where you can detach 2 materials to target one face-up card your opponent controls and throw it back into their extra deck. Throw it back into the deck shuffle. This first effect, it has an effect where you can detach 1 material and put 1 monster on the field face down, but typically use its secondary effect. Exoton, detach a material and destroy all other cards on the field, and your opponent doesn't take no damage for the rest of that turn. And in order to activate this effect, your opponent has to control more cards than you. Heartland Draco, he's good with Tenki, because as long as you have Tenki on the field, your opponent can't declare attacks. And he has the effect you detach material, and then he can attack directly, you know what I mean? So that's awesome. But your other monsters can't attack the turn you use that effect. The Goose or Emerald, this is to help you recycle, you know, your Chidoris, your Infinities, Novas, you know, your Pleiades, whatever you need to reuse, your Sky Blaster, your Exoton. You can just throw them back in the deck and draw a card. Also, it's useful to recycle your Yosenjus, so you can keep the fun going. Well, we already mentioned Dueling Mats effect. He's the way you bring out Nova, and Nova helps you bring out Infinity. But there might be a scenario where you only have 2 monsters, like maybe 2 Yosenjus, or maybe one of the Kamas and Sujik, and you still want to do the Nova, not the Nova, you still want to make a decent play, especially when you have to deal with your opponent's turn. You can summon, you'll be able to summon either Diamond or Pleiades. Now, typically I like going with Pleiades, so what I would do is I would take those 2 Yosenjus, overlay, and create Dueling Mats, and then end my turn, after I set back, of course, end my turn, then his effect will activate, where allow me to attach a Tellarknight XYZ monster from my extra deck as a material. That's the last line of his effect. So I can grab, you know, Tellarknight Diamond, for example, and equip it as material. So now he has 3 materials. since his ability to summon a monster that's one rank higher than him, that is not a number monster, you can detach 3 materials, and then you can summon Constellar Pleiades on top of him, and then during your opponent's turn, Pleiades will have at least 1 material, which is Duel Mats, and you can disrupt your opponent's plays, which is awesome, right? So that gives you some type of control. And that's a good play if you only got 2 monsters. Or let's say you have 2 Dinotherium, special summon one, normal summon the other one, and then overlay and go into that combo. And you essentially can create a first turn Pleiades. Let's say you have, again, let's say you have Dinotherium and Yosenju, any of the Yosenjus. The main thing is you can pretty much, with this deck, almost guarantee like at least 98% of the time to drop 2 monsters relatively easy. So a first turn rank 4 play is going to be relatively easy, and you might want to go into creating at least a Pleiades. Ultimately you want to make an Infinity because it is a Yosenju Infinity deck, but Pleiades, it's not to sneeze at. It's a really good card. But if you want to go and go off making the mighty, Diamond, you can use Diamond depending on the situation. But that's just something to keep in mind. Since he is a Teller Knight, you can use him as a material for Duel Mats. In the case you only have 2 materials, 2 monsters to make him. In defense mode, of course, he's 2600. I love that. You still can go into a decent play even if you can't do this. But sometimes I do make Nova, because typically people don't want to destroy him, and since if they don't know what your extra deck is, they might think you might have a fusion monster. In another build, I do have a fusion machine type monster that Nova can bring out, but your opponent don't know what's exactly in your extra deck, so they could assume, oh, I shouldn't Dark Hole Nova because something bigger will come out, so they might not mess with him. They might leave him alone, which will be good for you, because then in the following turn, then you can summon Cyber Dragon Infinity and beat face, wreck face, whatever you want to call it. Diamond, while he's face up on the field, neither player can send cards from their deck to the graveyard, and any cards that returns from the graveyard to their owner's hand are banished instead. During either player's turn, when an opponent's dark monster activates its effect, you can detach 1 exquisite material from this, negate the activation. If you do, destroy it. So this is really good against dark attribute decks. This is really good against milling decks like Life Sworns, Burning Abyss, obviously. This is good against any deck that can grab stuff from the graveyard and adding it back to the hand type stuff. And it's a 2700, can't argue with that. Pleiades, once per turn you can detach a material during either player's turn and target 1 card on the field and bounce it to the opponent's hand or to the player's hand. So since he can do any card and it doesn't destroy, obviously it's very versatile. And 3 Chidoris for the Chidori lock. When this card is XYZ summoned, target 1 set card your opponent controls and return it to the bottom of your opponent's deck. Once per turn, you can detach a material from this card face up, and from this card, target 1 face up card your opponent controls and return that to the top of their deck. And that's the end of the deck profile.